This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. Brought to you by the British Columbia Personal Training Institute. Learn how to train, gain, and retain clients. Visit bcpti.ca. On today's episode, we welcome Denise Druce. Denise was honored as the recipient of the prestigious 2023 Idea Inspiration Award, a testament to her incredible impact on the world of fitness and beyond. Back in 1981, her journey as a fitness instructor began in a rather cozy setting, leading an aerobics class on a shag carpet. Little did she know that this humble start would blossom into an incredible career in the fitness realm. The allure of the fitness industry gripped her heart, eventually propelling her to become a gym owner and delve into the world of yoga in the early 2000s. Yet it was through yoga that Denise experienced a transformative shift. She turned her personal pain into a purposeful journey, a journey that weaves through the tapestry of her life. In this episode, Denise candidly shares the profound impact her father's battle with alcoholism and imprisonment had on her formative years. With his passing, she harnessed the power of her past and channeled it into an innovative program that's changing lives. Enter Yoga Forward, a groundbreaking initiative that provides yoga teacher training within the walls of the Utah State Correctional Facility. Within these classes, Denise, alongside her dedicated team of volunteers, ignite a spark of inspiration among students, inviting them to stand on the soft edge of the hard place. This is a philosophy that Denise is holding on to even more as she navigates a life-altering diagnosis concerning her personal health. Before we get to this episode, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. I was so grateful because I flew in from Vancouver at the beginning of IDEA and almost missed the opening ceremonies. And then there was that little part of me that's like, I could nap. It was an early flight. And boy, was I grateful that I didn't, because that room, the energy was incredible. You were honored, of course, the 2023 Fitness Inspiration Leader of the Year. Tell me about what it felt like to be recognized by your peers in that way.
I still don't have words for that, but after 40 years in this business, I honestly can't think of a greater honor, truly, than to be given that inspiration award. I've always dreamed of going up there and getting Instructor of the Year, and that would be so fantastic, but to be honored almost like in all of the categories of fitness and recognizing the work that we're doing in places like the prison, it's a dream come true. I'm still pinching myself.
Good, because that just shows how much it's touched your heart and that you really recognize the deep meaning. Because as I say, it's so meaningful when it's by your peers and colleagues that really see you. And I know that you have made it your mission to really see others. So I'm glad that that reverberated back to you in this beautiful, loving way. One thing that I've noticed since I started podcasting in the fitness industry is people that work within it are still so attached to their roots and their why. But at the same time, I think a lot of people that work within it have overcome adversity at some point in their life and able to put that pain into purpose. And I think it's fair to say you are somebody that exemplifies that in this tremendous way. You opened up in your speech about 13-year-old you and what you were facing. So for those that aren't familiar with your story, what were you going through in your young life?
I was raised by an alcoholic father and a very religious mother. And so my life was this very like opposites, the balancing of opposites. When I was 13 years old, my dad went to prison. And he ended up spending 15 years in prison. So as a 13-year-old kid, that was just, first of all, I was really embarrassed. I didn't tell any of my friends. I was so worried that people had seen in the newspaper the story about him. I was angry at him. I felt like he ruined my life. My grandparents forced us to go visit him, of course. And every time I was there, it just felt so like, I don't know, the best word at that time, maybe like just dirty and icky. And I was a teenage girl developing and all the guys were staring at me and it just felt so messy and gross. That's the best way I can explain that.
Well, and I think that's such a pinnacle age. And then on top of it, full transparency, I have two alcoholics in my family. It's quite severe. And I can only speak from my personal experience, but I know, and you probably feel the same way. You have stories that people probably would never believe. It is highly tumultuous, and you don't really know what situations you're walking into a lot of the time. I can't imagine having that level of instability up to that point and then having to face something that I think even the most grown adult wouldn't even know how to deal with.
Yeah. And, like growing up in that world, though, I was the oldest child, and I learned pretty quickly that if there was going to be any kind of rhyme or reason or control in my house, I was responsible for that. And so I really did take charge of my siblings. My mom worked 2 jobs all the time. Dad was doing his thing. And so I think I kind of took that on almost as my armor. And I was very proud of myself for the leadership I showed and for the way, like, I've got this and I'm in control. And, as an adult, you go through therapy and you realize I really didn't get a childhood like other
No.
people get. But what I got were all these great skills that got me where I am today. I'm very, very comfortable in a leadership role. I'm very good at making calm out of chaos. And I got that from being that little kid that had to kind of survive in that world. So at age 13, I guess, yeah, that was hard, but it just felt like more of the same to me. Like, here's another thing we've got to learn how to deal with.
You were the young woman going through the jungle with the machete who'd gotten
Yes.
really good at wielding through the brush. And you were like, all right, I'll take it on. And there is a beauty in the resiliency that experiences like that instill within us. I think that it's one of those things, especially as we get older and distanced and have a better understanding of our story, as much as there's trauma to work through, there is such value and lesson in the trauma. And often we're able to use it to not just propel ourselves, but especially when it comes to yourself in this incredible act of service. So I know that within, and you shared a little bit in the storytelling there at IDEA, within that prison environment, the way people looked at your dad as well. Tell me a little bit about the not being seen, the fact that we forget there is a human being.
Yes. Oh, thank you for letting me talk about that, because it's near and dear to my heart. Growing up with him and then being in a very religious environment, I was just highly aware of the judginess all the time. And I was a church kid. And so that was really like this, that was the peaceful and beautiful part of my life. And that's where I went to find peace. And on the days that I could get my dad to come with us, I was so excited. Like, this could be the time when he, quits drinking and figures it out. And every single time I would just feel the judginess. He was a smoker and you could smell him when you sat next to him, and the people in our church didn't smoke. And he was probably smelling like alcohol. And so I just was hyper aware of the way people were looking at him. And then I thought looking at me in that same way. And so that did give me unique lenses that through his time in prison and after, I just never want to be the person that looks at another individual with those kind of eyes, but rather, what if he had been loved and accepted when he came to church with us? And would he have found a new path?
How incredible to have that lens. Hard way to gain that perspective, but I know you've been using your voice so beautifully to propel that message.
And that's the only way we get that voice, right? We do have to stand in the hard place, the hard places of our lives. If we look in the rearview mirror, that's where we learned everything. That's where we built every muscle. In fitness, it's picking up heavier weight. And that's what those hard things are. But I just love this idea that I'm not a stranger to going through hard things, but I don't want hard things to make me hard. And so I want to stand there at the soft edge. I'm not afraid of the edge anymore. I'll go to the edge. I really don't like diving off that edge, but I'm going to go to the edge, and I want to stand there with some grace and some just some softness and embrace what's there at the edge.
Well, and you've really been able to do that through this really successful career within the fitness industry. So let's go back to 1981. Before we talk about the full circle of how you've given back, let's begin where it began. Why aerobics? How did this happen?
Just like I'm sure every fitness professional has like a moment. I had no idea that this world even existed. I got a job just my summer after high school working at a women's health club. It's called Sophisticated Lady. And shortly after I got hired, they filed bankruptcy. They weren't able to pay any of their instructors. So of course, all the instructors quit. There was just me and the manager. And there were no classes. And she said, "You did some dance in high school, right? Can't you teach aerobics?" I just said, "Well, I could try." I had seen a Jane Fonda video. So I went back to the Lost and found some leg warmers and a little stretchy belt. And it was green shag carpeting that was at least 2 inches thick. And
Amazing.
we did this in bare feet back then. Reebok high top freestyles hadn't been invented yet. And so at the time, I think there was a little cassette tape and I popped it in, and 3 women showed up that day. 3 large-bodied women that kind of slumped in and they looked like they didn't want to be there. And I turned on the music and we started jumping around together, and we did the Jane Fonda, like arms out to the sides, a million circles and high kicks and lay on your side and lift your leg. And they left with smiles on their faces. They left that space better than they walked in. And that was enough for me. I went, I want to do this more. I want to help people leave better than when they walked in a door. And so I just, I wasn't sure what I was going to do in college. And I said, I'm going to do something health related. So right after that, I went to college and I started teaching aerobics in college.
Nice.
And still didn't know what I was doing, made it up as I went along. There wasn't YouTube at the time.
No, you're the OG. I love it.
But the college I went to, they let me use a wrestling gym and teach aerobics in this gym. And I literally stood by the door, put out my hand, and students would give me $1 for a class. And I would get sometimes 80 people in that room. And I started teaching every night because that's good money for a college kid.
Definitely.
And it was just so popular. That was in the 80s. And I did that all the way through 1986 when I graduated. Never had to take out student loans, just taught aerobics.
Were you disappointed that the wrestling gym did not have shag carpet?
No, but they had even thicker pads. Like the wrestling gym had like everything it's almost like a trampoline. So yeah, it was just insane. But
no wonder you end up in yoga where you're like, let's work on balance and stability, because your whole early career was on obscure surfaces.
That's right. Yeah.
So where was it where you decided to make the bridge where you were like, this isn't just money for college where I'm leaving without student loans. I can make a career out of this.
Yeah. So I graduated in 86 with a degree in health education. And my intention was to teach in the public school system. I did that for literally 1 semester. I taught high school. That was enough for me. I'm out of here.
Good for you to know that.
But not like that. It was horrifying to me. I was too close to the age of the kids, and I'm too nice, and I couldn't do it. So I went on a trip to San Francisco with an old boyfriend, and literally, again, those little milestones, I stumbled upon this brand new thing called corporate fitness. And now we would call it corporate wellness. Yeah. But a friend was working at a Pacific Bell or something. And so I went and toured their facility, and they had this huge gym just for their employees. I'm like, wait, what? So I went to a few other places, figured it out. I came back home and started a business in Salt Lake City called The Fitness Factor. And I had a little Suzuki Samurai side ponytail on my head. And I would just drive around to businesses doing fitness testing, doing brown bag seminars, teaching aerobics at lunch times. And that became my career. And during the 2 years I did that, I made really, really good money.
I bet, especially making deals with businesses. And it's like, I imagine at that point, the corporate wellness space as we know it now was probably in its infancy, really.
Yeah. Yeah. No one was doing it here. I was the first. And so, so I did that for a couple of years. And then I went, this is exhausting to be driving around all the time. I want a central location. So maybe the best thing and worst thing of my career was I opened a gym.
Everything's a learning.
Yeah. I went into the basement where there used to be another health club that had gone out of business. I had nothing. I literally had $2,000 in savings to my name. Got a good lease. My desk was a huge like Coleman cooler for a while. Made enough money to buy a phone system. And luckily 8 instructors that I knew came with me. And we opened the doors, Anatomy Academy, in 1989. And we had a good 11-year run. So
incredible.
We moved to a better location eventually. We had an incredible membership. We were downtown Salt Lake City, so a lot of celebrities came to the gym, which kind of always got us in the news. And Madonna came to my gym. And she brought Dennis Rodman with her, and I had to ask them to stop working out in the weight room because it was gross and all of our members were offended. Like, excuse me, tapping Madonna on the shoulder. Can you guys keep it down?
Amazing. These are the types of life stories where it's so worth collecting those along the way.
I know, you can't make it up. But so yes, I got to do the job of a gym owner. I met and married my husband at that time. He became my business partner, and thank goodness, because I knew fitness, he knew business. And so we ended up being a really great team together. We opened up health clubs for women because that was the heyday of the curves.
Right.
Trend was just coming on. And we did that for 6 years. And at that point we had 3 boys. We had my third boy was born, and my husband just looked at me one day and said, "We are not putting anyone through college on health club revenue. We've got to do something else." Mm-hmm. So we sold our gyms. It broke my heart at that point. Like, I thought I was giving away a child.
I bet that's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, and emotionally it would make sense to have such a tie. You created something, nurtured it, brought it to life, and had many years of success at it.
And the people, the connections of those people, I still see so many people today just on the street, and like, they'll almost start crying. I miss that so much. But my husband went into real estate, and then I just became an entrepreneur and started doing what I'm doing now, which is freelancing and just having a blast teaching at other places. And along comes COVID. And so my whole work went, onto virtual, like yours and everyone else's. So that kind of brings us to today.
At what point did you start to integrate yoga and really niche into that space?
So that was in the year 2000 when we were operating the women's health clubs. I trained in yoga and just added it to what I was already doing. It was just a tiny little sliver, like, let's do 5 minutes of yoga at the end of fitness classes. And I don't know, it's just like yoga kind of wants to take over. Yeah. During that time, I remember, like, I had a pretty serious back injury. I had a herniated disc, and yoga was the only thing that felt good to my body during the time that I was healing from that. I had a miscarriage with a lot of complications, and yoga was I just turned to yoga when things got tough in my life. So little by little, I would say it was probably around 2009 when I was mostly full-time yoga with a little bit of fitness on the side, just to keep myself strong and in shape.
Well, especially when you realize practice like that has such an impact on your own life, and then being able to translate that. I mean, let's face it, there's people walking into your space that might be going through the worst days of their lives. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times, if we know that physical activity and movement is the thing for us, then we'll start to do it more when we need that. So you have this incredible position to be able to help people through as well.
That's right. And there's not a day that goes by that I'm not grateful. Like I said in my talk, to wear stretchy pants to work every day.
Yes. It's the way to do it. It is the way to do it. I mean, everyone thought it was a COVID fad. You're like, no, I was the originator of stretchy pant corporate life kind of thing.
Yep. But they used to have a thong over them.
Yeah.
We got rid of the thong eventually, thank goodness.
Well, everything circles back. So goodness knows we might not be out of the woods yet.
True. Oh no,
Never
you're
say
right.
never. Get the high socks and the Reeboks ready.
Oh, seriously.
Fitness World's 16 British Columbia high-value, low-cost gyms are committed to helping people reach their fitness goals, whatever those may be. Exercise and movement play a pivotal role in supporting people's overall health and wellness, and it is Fitness World's mission to provide the facilities, services, and amenities to help you achieve your fitness your way. Visit fitnessworld.ca for more information.
But with yoga, obviously, it's not just something that you have brought through your virtual practice and as well in-person spaces. You've really taken it full circle to make a difference in people's lives. We started this off about the importance of seeing people. So talk to me about the work that you have been doing with Yoga Forward and entering the Utah Correctional Facility. How did that relationship begin, first of all?
Oh, it's been such a gift to me, first and foremost. I feel selfish sometimes when I talk about it because it is part of my healing journey with my dad. So along the lines of my yoga work, I have a teacher named Sean Korn. She's very well known in the yoga world. And one of her big stands is go to your wounds, and where you've experienced pain, that's probably pointing you back to where your service is. And she just really makes a great point. Like, who better than me to go back into those spaces and see people through eyes that only I can? And so when my dad got out of prison, he was sober, and we got 20 good years with him. My boys grew up with him. He's just one of their favorite people in the world. And interestingly enough, he never told my boys, he never talked about his past. Like, he wanted to live in the present and have a future to live into. And I
Understandably.
learned so much from that it's when people come out of prison, like, we try to hold them to that like felon title or what they did. And we know them by that. So I respected so much that was his story to tell or not tell. And I never told my boys either. We just looked at him as present, So when he passed, which was in 2016, that's when I started really thinking through that Sean Korn thing. And I knew I just had a stomach ache about going back there, and an excitement. Like, I didn't want to, but I knew I had to. And so when he passed, I literally sent one email to the volunteer office, and in my mind, it was like minutes, might have been a day later or whatever. They just came right back and said, yes, we would love to have you here. And so the process was started. I went in and started teaching yoga to the women in the Utah State Correctional Facility. And after 2 or 3 classes with them, it was such a fantastic experience. I just fell in love with them day one. And they could tell that I was looking at them through those non-judgmental eyes. I could see them as human beings with infinite potential. And so we just asked, would anyone be interested in yoga teacher training? And of course, all the hands shot up, and we started doing the math about schedules and gym time and all that stuff. And it just happened. It happened that we got the yes, and we were able to start yoga teacher training there.
When you had those first, or when you continue to have first, what's the overall atmosphere like? Like, are there reservations on the other side? Is there a nervousness? Because I just don't know, how often are there people like yourself that are coming into the space and being like, I see you and I want to create something together and share an experience together?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know how to speak to that for all places, but I do know that at our state correctional facility, it's mostly religious volunteers. So in every prison, there are a lot of folks coming from all different kinds of religions. And so the inmates have that experience. There are sometimes fitness instructors that go in, like our gym had Zumba. They had a Zumba teacher who was also a religious volunteer. And they had a ballet teacher, like Ballet West got in there and taught that. So
Wild.
that was not completely uncommon, but the yoga for sure ends up being something that is so helpful to the inmates with their mental health, with the stress level, with even the noise level.
Right.
They call it at this camp, the noise level at the camp is considerably less when the gym empties out a bunch of people that have been doing yoga.
Of course. Well, and I mean, you're providing not just an outlet to be able to move through. I always think emotions, energy, and motion to have that move through the body, but to be able to just create that space to, I don't want to say escape because we shouldn't be just escaping from ourselves, but you just get to go so inward that I'm sure for people it must be so therapeutic to just be present.
Yeah. Yes, it's one of the most common things we hear. Escape is probably the right word for that because they can't literally escape, but they say, when I'm in yoga, I'm not in prison. And for that hour, they get to be outside of the noise or maybe inside of the noise and away from their thoughts and their mental disturbances. And it's a peaceful time for them.
Well, and I know that it's been so beautifully embraced, and you've had some incredible stories of people that have really embraced this to a whole other degree. I know there was one woman you spoke of in particular in your speech. So, for those that were not present, tell us a little bit about what transpired.
Yeah, so this is the ripple effect. This is what I refer to as the ripple effect. So I'm there teaching yoga, and there are 10 women in the room, and each of them is like passing yoga to their friends and family, right? Well, there was one woman who she was a gym worker, so she was already a fitness person. She had some experience with yoga along the way, and she was very excited about what we were doing. And she said, "I'm not done after this 200 hours. What's next?" And I said, "Well, we could do an additional 300 hours to make you a 500-hour teacher." And no one else in that group qualified in terms of like the length of sentence. She is serving a life sentence, so she's got lots of time. And so she and I met personally. I brought in a few other instructors, and we got her to that 500-hour mark. And then she just knowing some of the other trainers, she said, I kind of want to do that. What would it take for me to be one of your trainers? And our philosophy is, you are 500 now, shadow a program, shadow another 200-hour program, and then you'll be ready to go. And so she did. And now she is, so the ripple effect just keeps growing. Now she is a yoga assets trainer. And to my knowledge, the only incarcerated individual in the world that is a Yoga Alliance yoga teacher trainer. And she's running her own training right now, scholarship, 10 women in. They're graduating. They're very, very close to graduating. I think maybe end of August, they'll be finished. And they're on short term, so they'll be out here with what she taught them. She's passionate about it, and she has found her purpose. She's gone to her wounds, and she has found a way to serve, to make a life sentence joyful and productive. And she just has found meaning in this work that she just gets excited to get out of bed every day.
Well, and especially to have this act of service go beyond the walls that I'm sure feel incredibly daunting a lot of the time. And so then to know that you have passed something yoga forward, and to be able to have, like where it's not a reality that they're able to have outside of those walls, but they are able to live that reality through people. And I think that is so beautiful and powerful. And I'm sure transformative mental mindset wise for that individual to have that. And I can't imagine what a powerful tool that would be when you're facing something that must feel so scary a lot of the times.
Yeah, I can't even imagine, but yes, it has given her that. And it's also, we've had a lot of media coverage of her story and the work that we're doing there. And one of the things it led to was she was reconciled with her daughter, who she's been in now for, I think, over 20 years. And she's back in touch with her daughter, and her daughter saw something about her on the news or social media. And she's just so proud of her mom and the work she's doing in there. And that just brings me so much joy, even that little piece of the story.
What a gift. And especially when we look at the system as a whole, you're 100% right. I think that even people that have the ability to make an exit from that experience, it's kind of like you're villainized for life by society to a large degree. And even I don't know exactly how everything operates in the States, but like here in Canada, that follows you and then you can't get employment. And it's like, how are you supposed to ever, like, are we really trying to rehabilitate people or what's happening here? Because it doesn't really look like it from my perspective.
I could not agree more. And you've noticed that I'm trying really hard to not say the word prison. And that's one of the changes that our institution here is asking for, that we want to be a correctional facility. We want to offer correction. We want to offer rehabilitation. Above the
Right.
gym, the sign says gym and recreation. And when I read that, I see recreation. And so I feel like that's our job, is to offer. That's why we're being so supported right now. They've made our programs, they're called productive time programming. And right now, our Yoga Assets 200-hour program is available to every inmate on that property. And so we've just started a program with the men. We've scholarshiped 26 men into a program.
Amazing.
So yeah, it just keeps growing and growing because people see the benefits.
Well, and I'm sure just the transformation in people, you can't ignore that when it's taking place. And when you
Yeah.
find people that like, then you just want to spread more positivity in the world. And truthfully, that's what we all need at the end of the day. For
Right.
yourself, obviously, that's an incredible act of service. And no wonder it's been recognized on so many levels and embraced and loved, because it is creating positive change for many individuals. And that won't stop because they
Yeah.
are taking that teaching role. But at the same time, as you're lifting up your own community, I know that love and support of friends, they've been holding you through things as well. And it's not the first time that you've had to go through adversity in your adult life from a health perspective. So talk to me a little bit about this journey.
Uh, and I'm going to be really vulnerable here. I had some medical procedures. I've got some new information today and that I'm still trying to process.
Right.
So I've been very easily able to talk about this, but right now it feels like it might be hard. So
Yeah.
bear with me.
And honestly, whatever you feel comfortable with, because at the end of the day, there's processing is important and we have to
Yeah.
do that in our own time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just a message here that I think can be helpful to people. So in 2015, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. 5 years later, I got to ring the bell, cancer free. And that's where I discovered the term, the soft edge of the hard place. Just going through that taught me so much about just life and gratitude and being in the present moment and not getting too far ahead of yourself and using the tools you have and using your life to help others lift theirs up, all those things. So it was really an incredible journey. Looking back, I have nothing but gratitude for that journey. And I always called cancer my teacher, my guru, and have just spoken fondly of this guru that I had. Well, like I mentioned in my speech, I think it's very much like having a really good personal trainer, that life has been watching me cruise along, lift in my 15s, and life has noticed that I'm getting a little complacent and maybe I'm taking some things for granted. And life said, all right, here you go, Denise, let's pick up some 20s. And that came in the form of a phone call from my oncologist on June 21st to inform me that my cancer is back. And it made its way into my lungs and my spine. So that's 6 weeks ago. And it's been 6 weeks of waiting to get results of exactly what's happening.
Oh, that's hard.
We've done CAT scans and PET scans and biopsies and all those horrible words that nobody wants to say out of their mouth. But what I've learned since then is that it is stage 4, and that's obviously what they call it when it makes it to other parts of your body. They're saying it's incurable. This cancer is incurable. I guess when it gets to the bones, it just stays there. And the hope, as of my appointment today, they're going to put me on some medication, that my cancer is estrogen receptor positive. It's progesterone receptor positive. And so there's one more piece of information we need, but I think we're going to put me on a medication that just halts the progress. And after 3 months, we'll go in and we'll do some more scans. And our hope is, best case scenario is that what's happening in my spine has shrunk, because they're much more concerned about that. The things in my lungs are tiny, but they're concerned about what's in my spine. The hope is that that has shrunk, and or at least stayed the same size. And then we'll know that what we're doing is the right thing, and we'll keep doing it, and we'll just keep an eye. So I kept pushing my doctor, like, are you going to give me an expiration date? And she said,
Right.
I'm not going to tell you have 6 months to live. You have years. I'm like, give me a number.
Well, and it must be so hard to not be able to quantify. And it makes a lot of sense to not, you go through this weight. That's tremendously overwhelming. I imagine, as somebody that's practiced yoga, you're very probably in tune at navigating the circuitry of our brain and where it wants to go. But naturally, the brain says, I want to fill in the blanks. And
Yeah.
intrusive thoughts can be one of the most difficult things to battle when we are faced with a question mark like that. So it would
That's
make
right.
a lot of sense to put that pressure as well on your practitioners to say, I got to know. But I mean, I can't imagine the shoes that you're walking, and I don't want to profess to know anything. I know that a lot of science has come so far with a lot of these treatments. It's so promising. And I'm like, thank goodness in an era that we have all this technology, etc.
Yeah.
But I think the most incredible part of you is that your life has this impact, and your life has this radiant glow that has transcended the walls of a place that were hard for you to overcome in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's what a beautiful story to write thus far, and then to continue to be able to write a story, because I imagine you're not going to stop using your voice. You will not stop using your voice.
No, I will not. In fact, one of my first stops, now that I have a little more information, I just didn't know if I was going to be on chemo and if I had to cancel things that are already on the books. And so as of right now, life goes on, and life goes on in the biggest way possible. My first stop is to sit down with my husband and my 3 boys, and we're going to make a 10-year plan.
Amazing.
And, when the doctor says you have years, I'm going to make up a number for myself. And I'm 60 right now, and I'm going to make a 10-year plan of what it looks like for the next 10 years. And when I get to 70, we'll renegotiate. But I just need to live from that perspective. And at the same time, because I am a planner and a projector, I also have to really work to stay present. And that's gotten me through 6 weeks, like you said, of your, with your skills and your tools. As long as I can stay right here and look at your face on this screen and tell my story and be present to this moment, life is so freaking good.
Yes.
It's
Air
only
in our lungs, body is moving.
Yes. Yes, I get to go have dinner with my son and his girlfriend. I'm so excited about that. And so I read a quote just this morning that I'm going to just carry with me. And it says, don't tomorrow your life away. Don't tomorrow your life away. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not like, I don't know what tomorrow holds. I just don't. And neither do you. And none of us do. And so how hard can I be in this present moment with gratitude and just wrap the people around me in my arms and do the things I do, keep teaching classes. I will say also, as a fitness professional, because I know that's your audience, and very quickly learning this news, I've made another pivot. And that pivot is I've been clinging to the total body conditioning classes. I think I've been single-handedly trying to keep step aerobics alive.
They are very fun.
I know. And I've been doing that. I'm a Schwinn master trainer. I've been teaching hardcore cycle classes. So one of the first things I promised myself is I'm retiring from that. I'm retiring from that high intensity piece of my life that traveled with me so well. But my body right now needs gentle and restorative yoga. My body needs breath work and meditation. My body needs more mobility work and functional wellness, things that help me with activities of daily living, like most people, most normal people get to by the time they're 60.
Well, and I think that, when adversity like that comes in our life, it's so tough, but at the same time, to be given the gift of perspective over the fragility of life,
Yeah.
it's something so hard to look at. But again, when you carry that with you, it allows you to stay so present.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as something I consciously try and do when I walk my dog. Look at the bark of the tree. Look at the
Yeah.
leaves. Look at the sunlight coming through the leaves. And when you
Mhm.
actually hit the pause button and see the magic in that,
Yeah.
and you're like, I get there's a million different systems out there, but I'm like, I'm part of this. Like, what? There's mountains, and wind is another one that completely gets me. And I'm like, we're on this spinning sphere. And I think so often we're in the spinning sphere of our brain where we get
Yes.
distracted by the busy and we forget that. And I think through practices like you do and what you instill in others, and especially those where, let's face it, there aren't those that are willing to look in the eye and see them. That is a gift that's going to continue propelling on, allowing people to understand the present, because it
Yeah.
is the only guarantee we have this moment. And it's
So true.
incredible how often we don't think about that or remember it. I think COVID was one time where people started to hit pause. And what did you see? People lean into things that fueled their soul, the creative energy that came out of that. I have a theory. Some of the magic we're going to see hop out of people's brains over the next little bit because they had that percolation. How exciting. But again, we have so many distractions that we do forget to breathe. And you have been this beacon for so many to be that reminder.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Another perspective for me is once there's a big thing in your life that does remind you of the fragility of life, and that none of us get out of this alive. Like, life is a terminal condition, right?
Facts.
One of the things is, like, a month ago, when I think about the things that were annoying me, I just want to slap my own face. Like, are you serious? You were worried about that? And it takes something like this to make us all, the things that we worry about are so ridiculous. They're not even external factors. They're just things that we let ourselves get annoyed about. And I can honestly say, for 6 weeks, I have not, like, my husband snores like crazy. I actually love the sound of his snoring now. The shift of perspective, I was so
Definitely.
annoyed by it 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. Now you're like, bring it on. You know what? We'll add it to the sleep tracks that iPhone has. Put on the
White
snore.
news.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited for you to craft this next 10 years, because if there's anything that I have understood about your story, is that you are somebody that cares so much about being in service. And I know that you'll continue to make that difference. And as well, you were so eloquent up there in your speech. It was so impactful. I'm sure you could feel the room, but, like, trust me, as somebody sitting there,
Mm.
it was a palpable energy that was created when everyone was in tune to the frequency that you were putting out, is the best way that I can put it. And that is a gift. And I'm
Okay.
just so happy that it's something that you use, because I think in this world, we all have these special features. Sometimes I always call them my friends' built-in special features. And when people are willing or brave enough to put their special feature out there, incredible things happen. And you're just a shining beacon of that. So I do want to say a massive congratulations to being recognized by your peers, but clearly extremely well deserved.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me too. I know you talk with a lot of fitness professionals and you travel a lot and you see a lot. So I deeply, deeply appreciate what you said. And I'm so glad you didn't take a nap that day. I'm so
Me
glad you
too.
came in.
This is like the whole thing. I'm like, Nappuccino? No, I need to go and experience this. And it's kind of that saying yes in life, right? I needed to
Yes.
be present in that moment. And I was so grateful that I did. But Denise, I want to allow you the time and space to get ready for this wonderful dinner with your son and his wife. And I just so appreciate you carving out the space to share your story. I absolutely loved learning about what you do. That's the whole thing. Humans fascinate me, and your brain is the one that put all of that into action. So I appreciate you providing and lifting the curtain a little bit.
Thank you so much. And I took the time to listen to a couple of episodes of your show just to get a feel for your style of interviewing. And it's going to be on my favorites now. Your podcast is on my favorites. I'm going to keep listening. I love your energy and I love the guests that I listen to, and you're doing good work in the world. So back at you. Thank you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. And I know if you listened, I often ask for a quote or a little nugget of wisdom, and you imparted so much on us thus far. But is there a lasting note that you'd like to leave us with today?
I would say I would reiterate that whatever life throws at you today, the hard things and the easy things, be grateful for all of it. Be grateful for all of it, because everything back there is what got us to where we are right now. And no matter how hard life throws that curveball, we can always stand at the soft edge of the hard place.
You've just listened to All Things Fitness and Wellness. This episode was brought to you by Fitness World. Your fitness, your way. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss out on hearing from industry thought leaders and influencers. We are on a mission to help everyone live a life fit and well.